I know the next main villain for Five Nights at Freddy's. And I'm not talking about the DLC for Security Breach, I mean the next mainline FNAF game. And I think it's someone that we haven't even seen yet. But first, hey there, I'm Rytoast. I'm a variety streamer on Twitch and I post videos about horror games here on YouTube. I've got more spiel to get into, but we'll do that later. For now, let's just get right into it. In order to talk about the future of the FNAF story, let's talk about the present reality of it. For those unaware, a few months ago, the newest installment of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise arrived as the revolutionary Security Breach. It was perfect, Game of the Year quality, and everybody loved it. No, it was a buggy mess, and hard to play. But the game was fun when it worked. Wasn't scary though. The messiest part about the game though, in my opinion, was the lore. It's no secret that the game had a rocky development cycle. It was pushed back several times, so much so that a spin-off arcade game was released to appease fans. One of the common themes of this delay was ambition. When the game was first being worked on, they had a bit of a smaller scope going into it. However, the team at Steel Wool is really talented. As they progressed, they had more ideas and more ambitions for the game, and each time they did, the scope got bigger. And each time the scope got bigger, the game had to get delayed. Here's the vicious cycle of things like this. If your game gets delayed, a lot of fans are going to expect more from you because you had more time to work on it, which does make sense in a way. However, this basically turns into a cycle of game, bigger scope, delay. Fans see delay and go, fine, but you better make it worth it. And then even though they already added bigger scope, the scope gets even bigger, causing another delay. And so on and so forth and so on and so forth until eventually the deadline's coming up and you have to just take the best parts of a game that you have, mash it together, and hope that your Frankenstein's monster of a video game is playable. And it wasn't. This is what I think happened with Security Breach, and from the stories that came out of development, it seems pretty likely that this was at least close to what actually happened. So what happens to a game when something like this occurs? Well, everything is polished, but unfinished. The graphics are clean, but inconsistent. And the lore is compelling, but fractured. It's almost like you ripped apart several storybooks, mixed the pages again, tried to create a story by gluing the desperate pieces together. All this to say, theory crafting with this game is interesting to say the least. You can really make the game say whatever you want to if you only look at specific angles. So to get any kind of inkling on concrete evidence of where the game is going next, we have to take everything into consideration and use as much of the game as possible and touch on other games in the franchise and just hope that we can get something out of this. So let's go through the evidence I can find and see what evidence presents itself to show us who the next villain might be. Also, here's your spoiler warning for the whole franchise. We're touching on a lot of games and we're going to be talking about all their endings. We'll start with who the main villains of Security Breach are. Well, it's really just two people on the surface, right? Vanny and William Afton. Well, not quite. So, William Afton is long dead, but the body that was fused into the Bonnie suit that he was in when he died got burned and then was brought back and then burned again and then smushed, but then got brought back again by Vanny using Glitchtrap. But also Glitchtrap is the virus that was created from scanning William's old parts into the VR game Help Wanted, and then Glitchtrap took control of Vanny to create most of Security Breach. So if that's true, I guess Vanny is the main villain. Well, she's kind of more of a victim. At least Vanessa is. The real form of Vanny. Technically, if you really boil it down, you could argue that the two main villains of Security Breach are William Afton and also William Afton but different. So two Williams. So the next game is going to be three Williams. God, I hope not. Especially if you consider which ending you want to be canon. There's no concrete evidence as to which ending is canon. Most people argue that the Afton ending is the most canon, because you have to do the most to get to it, it's the most hidden, and also it's kind of the most polished, being the only one that has a cutscene after the ending. But that's really flimsy evidence. Nothing there necessarily means it's canon, it's just the hardest to get to. Although I do like crafting the next game using that ending, because if it's true, Burntrap, and the physical version of William, is dead, and gone, as he should have been. It also means that all the older souls are gone as well, leaving only Vanny and Glitchtrap in her mind to be the next ongoing antagonist in this series. It'd be a nice parallel to the series because you have Gregory and Glamrock Freddy being a stand-in for Michael Afton, going against Vanny and Glitchtrap being a stand-in for William Afton, like the beginning of the franchise. However, that's only if this ending is the canon one. There are a lot of different endings, so to determine what the next game might be, we probably have to talk about all the others and see if that even holds up. Well, could the next villain be Glitchtrap? I mean, possibly, but that seems really far-fetched. Glitchtrap is really only a threat if he's actively possessing somebody or if you're in a mechanical-based environment like the VR game Help Wanted. If Glitchtrap is the next villain, it would most likely be Vanny as the next villain, acting for Glitchtrap. A lot of people are vying for Vanny to take over the main villain role as well. I know I am. Mainly because we want to stop beating William. It's starting to feel like...
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
And don't get me wrong, I like that concept. The monster's dead, but those who live under his control pursue his legacy. It makes for a nice narrative, but there immediately presents a problem with this theory. What could Vanny do? I mean, she is just a human after all. Furthermore, she's a human with no power within Fazbear Entertainment. Sure, she presumably worked on the third-party company that produced the in-universe version of FNAF Help Wanted, and was later transitioned to onboard as the only security guard for the entire Pizzaplex, which is a whole nother problem. But she is still just a nameless worker in the Fazbear machine. She has no power over this to create animatronics or to run a restaurant. So she would just kind of be out there killing kids, I guess, which feels like a big departure. Now, depending on what ending we go with, this theory does become more plausible. Straight away, either Vanny ending and the fire escape endings are all no-goes. In the bad Vanny ending, she dies, so she can't be the villain. And no, she can't become the next Springtrap or something. There's nothing nearby for her to possess. At least God, I hope not. In the good Vanny ending, the portion of Vanessa's mind being controlled by Glitchtrap is set free, so Vanessa, now harmless and hopeful, would have no reason to turn around and kill kids. And why couldn't she be the villain in the fire escape ending? Oh yeah. Okay, so what endings do we have left? The loading bay, the main exit, and the Afton ending. We've already touched on the only real outcome of the Afton ending. Burntrap and all the old souls are gone, and now it's just Vanny and Glitchtrap versus Gregory and Glamrock Freddy. It's pretty cool and compelling stuff. In the loading dock ending, which, quick aside, let's be honest, if any of these aren't canon, it's this one. Like, you mean to tell me that Gregory and Freddy just abandon everything and just drive off into the sunset in a van for no reason, and then Mr. Hippo is the new main stage attraction and not Montgomery Gator as he's supposed to be? It doesn't work. But if that somehow is the ending, the result would be similar to the worst ending, the main exit. In this one, Freddy stays behind, Gregory is revealed to be a homeless orphan, and then is revealed to be a homeless orphan in the past tense. In either of these endings, the result would be Vanny revives Burntrap and the pair wreak havoc, waiting for someone else to take on the mantle of animatronic foiler. So, in total, Vanny can't be the main villain in half of the endings. There's gotta be a better option. And I think there is one, although it's a villain no one's considered thus far. Someone who is plausible in every single ending for Security Breach and has been teased at since 2019. I think the next villain of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise is the insidious, terrifying, ruthless duo of the like and subscribe button, which you should totally hit, by the way. Okay, for real though, I'm confident that the most probable next Five Nights at Freddy's main villain, it's the CEO of Fazbear Entertainment Incorporated. Hear me out. There's one recurring theme in a lot of the in-game lore about Vanessa in Security Breach, and it's that she's unfit for the job, but was pushed through by higher management. We see here that she did well in an interview, but had no security experience. Even the interviewer noted how high-ranking this position was, and that the only security guard for the Pizzaplex, they needed someone more qualified. It's mentioned here that she was recommended internally, so Vanessa was pushed through to her position from upper management. What else can we blame them for? Location. The plot of this game and Vanny and Glitchtrap's plan depends, necessitates on the Pizzaplex being built right on top of the old FNAF 6 location. Who decides where buildings get placed in a company? The boss, the big man, even though they knew that there was some sort of sinkhole underneath, making this location an inherently bad place to put an entire building on top of. The CEO insisted the building be placed here. So the upper management put the pieces into place for Security Breach to take place. This could just be incompetence and bad luck, sure, but this is so direct it feels intentional. Now, I do get that there is one big flaw in this theory that a lot of people have brought up. Most of the upper management decisions could be being made by Glitchtrap in the system, but there's a flaw with that most people haven't considered. Five Nights at Freddy's VR Help Wanted. Fazbear Entertainment Incorporated were the ones that created Glitchtrap. Fazbear Inc. hired the company who built Help Wanted. From Vanessa, or to stay fully true to canon, no speculation, Tape Girl, we know that Fazbear were the ones that sent them the old parts to be scanned into the system, including the old burnt Springtrap, which had William's soul attached to it. This means that not only did Fazbear Entertainment know about Henry Emily, pause. I know it's a deep pull for Henry Emily, so for those not super in the know with FNAF lore, Henry Emily is one of the co-founders for the Fazbear Entertainment Incorporated way back when it was just William and Henry. They were the first two, but Henry left when William killed his daughter, and he only came back in FNAF 6 to build the trap to burn everybody to the ground, but apparently he did a bad job because the only person that actually stayed dead from it was Henry Emily, probably, and all the other souls turned into the Blob, and William turned into Glitchtrap, and then also turned into Burntrap, so we have two Williams. All Henry did was make the other souls worse and double the amount of Williams that we have. Not only did Fazbear Entertainment know about Henry Emily's plans, they knew the location of it. We also know from Tape Girl that Fazbear knew about the crimes William committed and were actively seeking to cover it up. Out of context, that just sounds like what a standard capitalist PR move would be, but with everything we know about what they know, it seems like they want people to forget about William so they can pursue his dreams of immortality instead. Okay, so what narrative possibly arises if Fazbear Entertainment Incorporated are the real villains behind the scenes here? Well, it's a really weird one for a future game, but it might be a refreshing new direction. We have a company who seemingly bought the rights to the name after the events of Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria Simulator. Someone in that board, most likely the CEO, found the blueprints Henry and William left behind, and slowly pieced together everything that happened. This CEO wants to dredge up any information William had on Remnant. For whatever reason, they also crave immortality. So the CEO hires on a studio to make a VR game, something to start the brand over and modernize it, and maybe bring back some of the ideas William had. They plan to scan in old parts to add authenticity, but the CEO's true goal is to sneak in pieces of William's body and suit in the hopes that they can study it more in detail. But then they hear reports of a strange rabbit appearing in the game. This is better than he could have imagined. Overjoyed, the company sets up the paperwork to fire the tester that found it and discredit him, and then try to shift companies before the next tester can find it as well. Unfortunately, they're not fast enough, as HR reports strange behavior from the tester that took over. She goes to in-house therapy paid for by Fazbear Entertainment, and the CEO begins to realize that this girl's possessed by William himself, the perfect assistant to his ends. Now that they have William's soul in the digital space, the CEO just needs a better body to graph it back onto. This old burnt suit at FNAF 6's restaurant would be perfect. Problem is, they need power, and a lot of it. They also need Remnant. Where can you amass large swaths of power in kid souls? A pizzaplex. Construction begins and Vanessa is pushed to head security guard so Vanny can do the CEO's bidding to recreate William Afton. It's a lot, I know, but stick with me. So we have this malevolent force in the upper management of Fazbear Incorporated. What does that mean for future games? Well, let's go back to the endings we have. In the main entrance ending, the trio wins. They're unstoppable. Gregory is gone, Freddy is completely taken over, now it's just Burntrap, Vanny, and the CEO ready to take on the world. So it's probably not that ending. The Van ending I'm just gonna throw right out because I hate it and it's ridiculous, but also it's essentially the same thing, assuming Gregory and Freddy don't get pulled over like a mile down the road. The Afton ending is the worst case scenario for the CEO. The Pizzaplex, Afton, and everything he's worked for, possibly even Vanny herself, all crumble and burn. He's got nothing. And we have nothing moving forward for the plot, so it's probably not that one either. Now we have 3 other endings, 2 of them with similar outcomes for the CEO. In the fire escape ending and the bad Vanny ending, Vanny dies, but Gregory escapes. However, the CEO still has himself and presumably a revived Afton. It's regrettable that the CEO lost such a valuable asset in Vanny, but he's got the funds and Remnant to build a new location, perfect to house his new zombie genius to do as many tests on the lost kids there as he wants. After all, what can one homeless orphan do to stop them? However, I still think the most probable outcome, and the one that makes for the best sequel, is the good Vanny ending. Vanessa is freed, and her, Gregory, and the head of Glamrock Freddy escape. The CEO is displeased that they lost Vanny, but they got Afton, and that's what they were really after. From their perspective, what can that weird trio do? It's a human girl nobody knows about, a homeless orphan, and the head of a robot that's technically stolen property anyway. Fazbear Entertainment Incorporated builds a new location, and the CEO makes sure to contract a few people to build a secret laboratory underneath. Perfect for his new pet zombie genius to begin redoing his experiments. After all, there'll be plenty of children showing up to the new Freddy Fazbear's location. Perfect for the CEO and Burntrap to figure out the true mysteries around Remnant. That's where the next game starts. A new, slightly more low-key pizza restaurant opens up. Gregory, Vanessa, and the Freddy Head presumably living together since Vanessa's confirmed to have no family and Gregory's a homeless orphan, so why wouldn't they? Living together, they hear about the pizza restaurant, and then they hear about kids going missing. And they know that something is still going on with the Fazbear Company, so they know what they have to do. Vanessa, Gregory, and some electronic version of Glamrock Freddy infiltrate the location and try to find out the secrets of what's actually going on. That one was off the rails. Technically, the new villain would be William Afton again, but at least there's like a more insidious corporate espionage thing going on. I know, it's whack, but like there's too many coincidences here for it to not be at least somewhat involved with the company at large. Like I said in the Freddy Fazbear video, either the company is so cartoonishly, idiotically stupid and greedy, or it's on purpose. Like it's one or the other. I'm a little scared to ask, but what do you think? Craziest theory yet? Has Riley finally lost it? I'm only 4 months into making videos on this channel, and I'm already at corporate espionage. God knows what we're going to be talking about in December. Anyway, it would mean the world to me if you guys liked and subscribed to the video, as it really helps a small channel like mine. Shout out to my best patron, Emberisk, and until next time, as always, stay toasty.